Hey everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Marketer Podcast. Every single week, we interview deep dive experts in one of the many fields of marketing to drop huge knowledge bombs from the best of the best and teach you how to take your marketing skills to the next level. This is episode 16, and I'm sitting with Reuben Scheckter, who is an expert at e-commerce, lead generation, and Facebook advertising in general. He's a law school dropout. He started his first business at 14, selling fishing equipment on eBay, was one of the early drop shippers. More recently, he scaled the company from zero ad spend to $1 million in a year on Facebook and quadrupled that company's revenue. In 2018, he drove more than $25 million in revenue for his clients and his own brands. Reuben, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so that's quite the impressive list of accolades. How did you kind of get into digital advertising, kind of Facebook advertising, all of this in general?
I've always sort of gravitated towards marketing in general. I remember when I was younger, I started even back when you could get Facebook to drive organic fans. I started a fishing page around a really niche section of fishing and managed to get 10, 15K followers. I've just always gravitated towards it. And I just, at the very start, I just found it so incredible how you could drive revenue just by clicking buttons on a computer and you just sit there. I remember my first Shopify sale. I was at the pub drinking a pint and then I just get this ding on my phone and it was like the best feeling in the world.
That's great. No, it's definitely an intoxicating feeling when you kind of get those first sales. I've definitely been bitten by the bug. So tell me about, I want to hear about the eBay with the fishing equipment. How did you figure that out? And especially at such a young age. I think I was mostly riding my bicycle around trying to get girls to talk to me at that age. So
I think I'm lucky that I come from a family, almost a line of entrepreneurs. So I see what my uncles and stuff are doing who run humongous companies overseas in the States and South Africa and stuff like that. And I always had that sort of bug. I was like, I want to build a business. So wouldn't that be the best feeling in the world? So I was a mad keen fisherman at the time. So I knew the industry. I had even had a part-time job in a fishing shop. So I was like, what if I could get these really Japanese sort of looking rods? Because there was a Japanese style of rod, but get it a lot cheaper and get it from China. So I managed to go on, I think Alibaba or something, or I found this company, I think they were called Crony or something, and they made these really nice looking fishing rods. So I was like, hey, can I get your price list? And one thing led to another. I saved up some money and got a bunch of stock sent over to my family's house, much to the non-impressed looks of my family. Yeah. They're just like, oh no, because my parents always laugh because I'm a massive a schemer. I guess every entrepreneur is, always scheming the next plan. So yeah, and then I started doing that. I sold it to a few local retailers. Anything that I couldn't sell, I just whacked on eBay. And yeah, it was a really good learning experience. Unfortunately, I had to sort of go back to attempting to study to get into law. Obviously, that didn't go that well, but I managed to scrape in through the skin of my teeth. That's sort of how it happened.
I feel that's actually interesting. I feel like every really successful entrepreneur I know has one of those kind of early on stories, right? Where whether they sold something or I myself ran sports betting basically when I was a teenager. I was in the US we have the basketball March Madness. I was running brackets and then taking 10% for myself as a service fee on the top. So yeah, it was So I feel like everybody kind of has one of those stories, right? And so you go to law school, which is another thing I actually hear from a ton of digital marketers and entrepreneurs in general, which is at some point they were going to be a lawyer and then they blew it up and decided to do something else.
I think it comes from I think a lot of really successful digital marketers are highly intelligent and highly analytical. So I think their parents will see that in them and go, oh, what's the best paid job in the land? Law. Well, that might be debatable, but it certainly has a lot of esteem to it. And that's sort of what it was for me. And also I'm very argumentative, especially as a kid. I'm not sort of maliciously, I'm just always question everything. And they're like, you just love to have the last say, don't you? And then they just said, you're going to be a lawyer. You just love to you'll have to win an argument, win a debate sort of thing. So yeah, that's sort of how I got directed to it. And it was always like a thing for me where I was always destined to become a lawyer. That's sort of what my family thought. And it didn't really turn out that way, but I'm glad for it.
Yeah, no, actually remarkably similar to my story, right? So that's interesting. So you're in law school and you drop out. And what is that a scary decision, or how does that happen? And no?
I make decisions on a whim. Like I love risk. Obviously nothing too stupid, but I just realized that I was stuck in Perth in Australia, for those who don't know. I just felt like I was sort of in a slump, in a rut. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. So I decided to move to the other side of Australia and start sort of fresh and be in a new environment. I always loved the Gold Coast. I love it here. It's like paradise. I support the Australian football team here, so I get to go to the games every week.
Yeah, so you're in Gold Coast, right? And you're living the dream. And so what do you do? So you drop out, so you get into sales, you said, I think?
Yeah. I've always known that I'd be quite good at sales. When I worked at the fishing shop, I used to sell big packages really easily. So I was like, I sort of came to the Gold Coast with an open book, right? I was like, I realized that I need to just find what I love and I'll gravitate towards it. And I ended up in sales, and I managed to get awards for the best guy there months running. And yeah, so I was really enjoying sales. But then it sort of got to a point after a couple of years where I just got sick of being on the phones all the time. I guess that's what brought me back to thinking, hey, couldn't we just generate revenue with a computer rather than me using my voice, because I can't duplicate myself, but you can scale endlessly on the internet. And that's what got me into starting drop shipping and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like to describe, again, this is kind of like, I think you might be Australian version of me, but like, or rather I'm the American version of you, where like, again, like I like to say that I'm the laziest person I know, because I will do 10x the work so that I never have to do something again. Because I'm like, this is boring. I hate doing this. I can't wake up and just do this same thing every day. And so how do I automate this? Like,
you should ask anyone who knows me, and they will tell you that I'm the exact same way. My dad used to always say I'm the laziest person in the world, but when I first got my first job in marketing, they used to give me the hardest, like in like the CRM for automation and stuff like that. They'd give me a task that's really arduous because they know that I'd automate it every single time. So they ended up just automating a bunch of things, and like just they loved it because they figured out how to hack my brain essentially.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. So you're doing sales and you get interested in digital marketing because you want to automate, right? And so you're working on this automation, and you're at like a solar company at the time, right? I think that's what you said.
Yeah. So I really had no right to step into a marketing role. I was working on the sales team of the solar company, and I went up to the owner of the company and I said, hey, like, we're cold calling people, but why don't we just generate leads using Facebook or online or whatever? And he said, yeah, okay. I was like, why don't you give me $1,000 budget and I'll see if I can make it work. And that's sort of when I started jumping into Facebook ad buyers group and things like that. Because when I get onto something, I'm completely obsessive. I've actually been diagnosed with very high functioning Asperger's. So when I cling on to something, I just learn everything about it there is to know. So I just obsessed over it. And 6 months later, we go from spending maybe like $1,000 a week to, 10x that. And then even more so. And I just kept scaling. I was like, can we handle more? Can we hire more staff? I was like, all right, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to run with this. And just went, to see how I'm risk averse as well. I was like, putting the job on the line that I had no right to be in, because I basically said, after it started working, I was like, can I just become the marketing manager for the business, like for like digital stuff? And he was like, okay, you're doing a good job, so why not? And I was like, okay, let's run with this.
That's incredible.
I basically appointed myself marketing manager, and I had no right to do it there. That's sort of how I am. I just sort of I connect with people and get them to believe in what I see, and that's sort of how it came to that.
No, I love that. I love that. That's actually really incredible. I mean, and honestly, most of that no right thing, most of that gatekeeping stuff is bullshit anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody that has the right, quote unquote, is just faking it, or it's like most of them are. So you've done this, right? You're the self-appointed marketing manager of this company after you keep scaling it and keep killing it with these ads. And then what happens? What's next?
So it got to a point where we said, okay, we're doing really well with this, but like this is like a good money business. Like, what if we sell leads to other companies as well, and in a few different niches, perhaps a few different verticals? So there started Cobra Digital. This is a conversation I had with the owner of the solar company, who's now my business partner. So we had a conversation. He said, let's start a digital marketing company, and I said, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not building my dream company for you. I want ownership in that. So that's how the partnership began. And yeah, and then there was a lot of, as you know, and once you start a new business, there's a lot of learning curves that come with that. It's very different to managing someone else's ad spend. So yeah, and then we sort of moved earlier this year, moved into client services as well as lead gen, and yeah, it just continues to blossom.
That's fascinating. So, what's kind of the state of the union today? Where are you at? With like kind of all of this like really cool journey that you've undertaken.
I feel like I'm working in a circus at the moment because I'm juggling so many things. Probably people who've been on this podcast before me are juggling a lot more, so I probably shouldn't say that. But yeah, no, lead gen's sort of been streamlined a bit. We're doing mainly solar these days, and we've sort of moved more into client services. And I guess the long-term vision, and long-term for me, because I'm trying to move quite fast and I like to scale quickly, is my long-term over the next year or so, I guess that's short-term, is to more move into owning brands rather than working for other people, as in client services. So we're going to build our own stable of private brands, e-commerce brands, and keep lead gen as well. I personally see that as the future of big money in marketing, and it's also very fulfilling to build a brand that people get excited about and be able to have something to show people. Because I don't know about in the States, I'm sure it's a lot more advanced there, but when I tell people what I do, they almost just don't understand. Like I get in an Uber and I'm like dreading when they ask what I do, because I'm like, they ask me and I'm like, I just say Facebook ads. Because if I go into too much detail, they just look at me with this like and on their face like I was.
Yeah, no, I mean it is and it isn't in the States, right? Like you have I kind of live in a bubble because like I live in one of the kind of the bigger like tech hubs or whatever, right? And like most of the people I hang out with work in tech or whatever, so they kind of get it at least. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, for my parents, I just say Facebook ads like as well. If I'm feeling a little mischievous, I say I'm a professional Facebook reseller.
Yeah. Sort of true.
Yeah. Okay. So, or I say I work at like a Russian bot farm or something.
Yeah, I've tried to say media buyer, ad buyer before, and that gets me the most not shocked, like just perplexed look you could imagine.
Yeah, I'm stealing your data. No. Okay, so taking a step back, you are building brands. You're doing all this stuff. What have kind of the biggest changes in digital marketing you've seen been so far? Are things getting more competitive, more advanced? Is there more platforms coming up? Like, what's kind of the macro trends you're seeing inside of, digital advertising right now?
I think in the relatively short time that I've been a professional at it compared to, guys that we connect with in the industry, I've seen a lot of change. And I think, yes, it's definitely been more competitive, rising CPMs. But I think there's a good side of all this in that the quality is rising to the top. So bad users on Facebook, guys who are, obviously black hat is a separate thing, but, the bad users who are using deceptive tactics and never tried to innovate beyond that, it's become a lot harder for them. With our lead gen side of things, we've always prided ourselves on being able to provide high quality leads, not just leads, because especially in solar within Australia. Solar lead gen's a huge thing in Australia. Mostly they're 3-quote leads, so like people who go, they give it to 3 different companies to have the opportunity to sell the person. We've always been really focused on providing exclusive leads with the right intent. A lot of people, again, using solar as the example, they run ads that say, oh, free solar panels, or because there's a government rebate here for it, but they word it in a way that makes it sound free. So you can imagine when the sales team on the other side pick up the phone and call that person, they go, oh, nah, I thought it was free. So if you've sold that lead to someone, you're not growing their business. You're just making the most out of the transaction, where you're not thinking about the long term, where if you provide that person great leads at a lower cost on the initial sale, so you're not selling it 3 times, you're not selling them garbage leads that you produce for cheap. If you're providing quality leads, their business grows. And if their business grows, I was in Bangkok in Asia, I heard Danilo Lee speak, and he made the perfect analogy, which we use a lot here, is it's the line of cocaine. And once you've given them the line of cocaine, they want more. I laughed so hard at that when he said that, because we always joke about that here. It's like, once they've bought the leads and they've built their business on them, then suddenly they rely on them to an extent. We do say to them, like, don't fully rely on us, because what if we change our plans or whatever? But they rely on those leads, and suddenly they've maybe quadrupled their own business, like some of our clients have. And yeah, so they're very, and it's a great working relationship, which in lead gen, it's usually very transactional. Not like client services where, you help build their business with their ad spend. They're really happy because you've shown them things that they never thought was possible. In lead gen, it's like, how much are the leads? Okay, what's a DQ lead? We'll buy this many. Done. There's no like extended contracts. Well, you can do them, but most people don't. So yeah, it turns transactional lead gen into a proper business relationship, which is really good. And it's cool seeing someone grow the business with something you've done.
No, that's really interesting. So I like that you kind of have taken like kind of a more, I guess, holistic approach to it, rather than being like purely transactional, like you said, right? You kind of are starting with the client first. Is that kind of a fair way of saying it? Like, what's the magic sauce with that? I'm trying to understand.
Well, I always like to focus more on the long term. And the other thing is, I'm a big believer in doing the right thing, and it's not a disadvantage doing the right thing, because you're going to see the benefits over the long term. Whereas it does make it harder in lead gen at times, because a lot of lead gen companies, resell old leads, throw a few in the batch. They do all sorts of things to increase their margins. So sometimes when you're competing against pricing with companies who do that, it's tough on the initial sale. Once you have someone in and they've been using your leads for a month or two, they're not going to go anywhere else, because they know you've got the quality. That's sort of why I'm just a big believer in that. I don't like doing the wrong things. So.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I like to sleep well at night, so I definitely agree with you. Plus, it's like, it's make $1 today when you could make $100 extra tomorrow, right? Because people will stay with you and kind of keeping on those customers by providing them a lot of high quality.
Yeah, even if you take out how you feel about it, like, it's obviously nice to do the right thing because it makes you feel good about yourself. But even taking that out of it and just looking at it from a logical perspective, doing the right thing is the right thing. I know that sounds pretty basic, but I think logically as a business decision, it bears fruit as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With how much it costs to acquire a new client or whatever, right? It makes a lot more sense to just do the right thing and keep somebody around for twice as long. Okay, so you're kind of seeing the evolution here of Facebook and such moving kind of away from shutting down kind of the black hat sort of people, the people that are maybe doing like some questionable sort of tactics. I think we've seen that a lot too with like the stores getting quality scores and things like that right now, right? Like they're based on things like shipping times and all of that. You kind of mentioned that you're moving into e-commerce and making your own brands. Kind of what do you see the evolution of that being? Especially as kind of a lot of the drop shippers, which you said, you were back in the day, and kind of a lot of them are falling apart right now, right? So like kind of it's an interesting, well, the low quality ones are falling apart, I should say. But yeah, kind of how do you see that evolving as well?
Well, that's an interesting one. That's sort of what pushed us to start launching our own brands. Is it's very Facebook friendly. Like even lead gen, and we're very very white hat. Like we sometimes get disapprovals on certain types of wording, all sorts of things. We've taken out certain words like qualified and things like that, so that we're super compliant. Whereas e-commerce, if it's your own brand and you're doing the right thing, selling, obviously something that's not on their naughty list, and it's very Facebook friendly. So I think over the long term, as they change it more and more, and it seems like the direction to me that they want most of the advertising to be, unique brands and things because a unique brand that provides a product that people like is a good user experience, and a good user experience is what Facebook want to keep their users on, so that they can have more people for advertisers to advertise to and have more advertising revenue. So that's the direction that I see them going in. Is it's obvious that user experience is the most important thing to Facebook, because that trickles down to revenue. So I think the thing that provides the best user experience is really good services and e-commerce brands that people identify with, and they have a feeling towards that brand. Because a dropship store, they don't feel anything for it. It's just, I mean, obviously there's really well-built ones that they actually almost are brands. They're just drop shippers. But your average drop shipping store that could, like back in the day, easily turn over $100,000 a month with crappy ads, shit looking store, it used to blow me away. I'm like, how are these assholes doing this? And yeah, it's obviously harder now, and they're even ordering the products and having a look at them if it's a high revenue store that's selling sketchy drop shipping stuff. But yeah, I think building brands is a long term way to go. And then there's also things outside of just direct response marketing that are you can do with brands. I mean, if you look, I take a lot of inspiration from Josh Elizeche, and he's in Nordstrom's now with snow teeth whitening. I think around 350 plus stores. So there's things like that you can do. Obviously, the margins are a lot lower when you take it to a department store. But yeah, if you have your own brand, there's a lot of other things you can do as well. And as I said before, it's definitely something to be proud of if you get to that point.
Yeah, no, I like that. And it's an interesting thing too. I would say even inside of the direct response sort of world of Facebook, right? You see people building those like Facebook funnels where they'll start off with, like video views campaigns, right? And then retarget the people that did the video views and then things like that, right? And so it's interesting. So like are you kind of seeing like it becoming more and more advanced? Because I remember back in the day, I'd throw up a link click campaign with a single image and some terrible copy that I like wrote half hungover that morning, and like I'd make just tons of money and like it'd be great. Everything was awesome, but it seems like it's kind of changing where you have to be a little bit more kind of thoughtful when it comes to that. And yeah, so how do you see that kind of like the tactical evolving?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because lately we've brought on a couple more clients, some that are lower ad spend that we just believe in. So it's interesting with that lower ad spend, you almost have to go back to the basics a little bit, because you can't have a really in-depth middle of funnel and really like, there's only so much money to allocate. And if you can only allocate small amounts of money to each campaign, then you're not really going to get much data learning out of it. But then when you get to the higher level, there's so many things you can do. And like, obviously we always run a video views campaign. You can use something like an interest coupled with engaged shoppers, so that you're getting engaged shoppers watching the video and then retarget them through a conversion-based campaign. But yeah, with those smaller ones, it's really more top of funnel. But I think as well, like with Facebook evolving at the moment, it's almost like they're trying to take all these little tricks away from it, and they want us more to do great creative and let the algorithm do its work, because the algorithm is fucking smart. Sometimes you see guys who keep it pretty simple and they just do great creative, great copy that people like, again, really good customer user experience. They do really basic, but it resonates with the people. Their media buying stuff isn't anything fancy, but it kills it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely see. So I had Gil David from the Facebook Ad Buyers group on a while back, and I've had a lot of different people on, and that kind of seems to be the trend that I'm hearing with everyone, which is they're all kind of moving towards this place where they're like, okay, yeah, what we're really seeing is that, yeah, Facebook wants you to focus on great creative. They want you to put in some high level audience stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff around like manual bidding and things like that that can still give you an advantage, but they do seem to be moving towards a place where the media buying is de-emphasized in place of just great creative that resonates with the audiences.
100%. And I think media buying is still a hugely important part of it. But if you can couple that with really amazing creative and put a really good user experience in front of the right audience, then I think that's a real winner, So, yeah, it's an interesting time. And I often see people say, oh, the CPMs are higher. But CPMs don't fucking matter. If you're converting at a lower cost or the same or whatever, then what does it matter what the CPMs are?
Yeah, especially in the performance space. If you're like a huge brand anyways, you're negotiating with Facebook directly for like fixed impressions or whatever.
Yeah, I only really look at CPMs as a diagnostic stat. So like if my CPA is out or my ROAS or whatever, then I start working backwards and looking at where the problem is. And if my CPM's fucking $100 or something crazy like that, then obviously there's a problem with CPMs. But otherwise, it's just more of something I glance over.
No, that makes a ton of sense. So kind of, I guess my next sort of question, right, then is, so in this space, you, like I said, you've done lead gen, you've done e-commerce, you're obviously incredibly knowledgeable about Facebook, right? What do you kind of see people doing that you want them to stop? Like what's your biggest like gripe with other advertisers right now?
I get a bit butthurt by info products sometimes, but I also don't if it's done like ethically. One thing that bothers me a little bit is these guys teaching people to start agencies and then like sort of luring. It's like they're teaching people how to trick your average business owner into buying your digital marketing services, but they're teaching people who have no background in digital marketing, which is fine if you're just starting out learning, but you're not luring clients. But if you're luring clients and saying you're a digital marketer when you learned about it a week ago, I just think that's unethical. And from the top, if people are teaching people to do that and making a ton of money off it, I just don't think that's a good thing to do, because essentially all you're going to do is burn some poor business owner's money. And, a lot, like, especially I know you'd probably be very aware of this, is like some clients you speak to which do brick and mortar, they know nothing. Like most of what we talk about is complete jargon to them.
I end up like I work with attorneys who are mostly like older. At least the youngest client that I have is 35, right? And so they're mostly older, they're mostly old school, and I end up making comparisons to billboards all the time. Like, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but no, I definitely agree. I think I get like 10 of these like people a day that are like, no risk. Like I'll work for a percentage that I just give me your ad spend and like I'll learn. Basically, they're saying they're going to learn with it because they're like, oh yeah, I'll just take 10% or whatever. I only get paid when you get paid, sort of deal. And like I know that's coming from some course. I'm not sure which one, but if I find out, I'm going to freak out. Like
I'm pretty sure I know a couple of them, but I won't name them. In the spirit of keeping a positive identity.
In the spirit of maybe them being on my podcast one day.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, but you always have to remember with clients, and this is what these sort of people should know, is like you're spending hard-earned money. Like this isn't a game. Like,
yeah, these brick and mortars too. It's really unfortunate because like it's not like some big company that you're ripping off or whatever. And yeah, they have to like somebody has to like get grilled over like a budget getting blown or something. It's like these are like people's like livelihoods. This is like their kid goes to school and pays tuition or whatever. Or like that's their vacation, that you're blowing. Right. And like, obviously, every digital marketer has good clients, bad clients, right? Some things, the stars just don't align. You can do everything right and it doesn't still work out. That's just part of the business. I'm not going after people that have had some, losses, right? Because we all do. But if you really don't know what you're doing and someone's trusting you based on like a confidence play, I don't know. Yeah, that does annoy me quite a lot as well.
It's almost akin to like selling trading or like telling them you trade with their money, like trade stocks or some shit, but you know nothing about stocks. It's essentially the same because advertising is like day trading. I always say day trading on eyeballs and clicks. So yeah, not a big fan of that. But it is what it is.
Yeah, but so the positive side of it, what is something that you see everybody doing right that you wish more people were doing, or somebody see marketers doing correctly that you wish more people would do?
I think there's a lot of good in like the groups that I see yourself in as well. People just providing free value. There's whenever I run ads for clients, it's ridiculous how many inquiries come through. There is so much work out there for digital marketers that I think there's more value in providing people free information and, you know, like teaching people for free without expecting anything in return. And I think people will probably respect you when you do that. I think I should do more of it. I just am busy and, you know, like I need to set aside time to help people. But I think that's really cool. I think people should provide free value to others, and so that people who aren't that skilled yet become skilled, and then they can provide a better service, and then a better service to clients worldwide from the marketing community will give our industry an even better name. So I think there's a lot of value in that, and it feels good. So why not?
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, I got so I don't know if you know this, but I have a community on Reddit, which is like the primary distribution for like this podcast. It's about 5,000 people or so that watch my videos on Facebook advertising, right? And I've put out like 20 hours or something of it. I got a message on my Facebook page from a guy who said that he knew nothing about digital advertising. He used my videos, got a bunch of certificates, and now is like speaking at a conference in India, like because of it. And yeah, it's like crazy. Yeah, and he like was able to like do it for his family business and a bunch of other stuff. So it was neat. But yeah, man. So this has been great. You know, kind of. Do you just have any parting thoughts as to kind of what? Just any parting thoughts at all for like aspiring marketers out there, or folks, you know, working to try and get their business working, or like, you know, even somebody that's a little junior that wants to start their own agency one day.
A good thing, this has been a lesson for me in the last 3 months or so. Think bigger, like think big picture. Don't get bogged down by just being a freelancer. And because what happens is if you're an ad manager all day, every day with a 1-man or 2-man agency, you're really busy. Don't get bogged down by that. And because I find the longer I'm in ad manager, sometimes I forget to think about the big picture because we are business people as well. We're not just digital marketers. So remember to be a business person and think bigger and keep focus on that. I read an article recently, is like you should allow yourself time to be bored. And I really agree with that. Like I like my Sundays where I set aside a few hours and just sit on the couch and don't think about anything, because that's when I have my best ideas. And when you free up your mind to have good ideas, that's when you start thinking bigger. And and then that's what leads you to duplicating your business and scaling up.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, Reuben, thank you so much again. Truly appreciate you spending time with us today. You know, if you're out there and you're listening and you're working on an e-commerce company, you're working on trying to learn like lead generation or whatever, this has just been absolutely invaluable advice. I urge you to go back and re-listen to this episode at least 3 times. Reuben, before we go, is there anything at all that you want to pitch your agency, or what are your brands or anything like that?
I always like ones where no one pitches me at the end, so I won't pitch anything, but if anyone wants to hit me up for a chat, they're more than welcome to, or if you do want to jump on board as a client or whatever, but I'll leave it pretty pitch free, and yeah, you can hit me up if you'd like to.
Reuben, thank you again. Appreciate it. For everybody out there listening, happy marketing.